All right. Let's see if we're going here. Definitely should be. I just want to make sure that everything is up and running. Alrighty. Welcome everybody. Hold on, wait. It's not really Christmassy yet, so give me 1 second. Yes. That is what I'm talking about. It's copyright music if I press that button, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah. Oh my god. The hair needs to get out of the way as well. There we go. Now we got the Christmas hat on. It's a little bit more Christmassy. That's going to have to do. Welcome to a Christmas special live stream of the Sideline Reporter. Now, I know I said I was going to be doing video highlights of the audio podcasts every now and then, but I've just simply forgotten it. My live stream service has been screwing up on me constantly, but now it's working. It's Christmas. There was supposed to be an audio episode today, so I thought, hey, I'll give you a video episode instead to make up for all the other times. So this is going to be a video live stream of the Sideline Reporter. So let's get into what I wanted to talk about to start off. By the way, if you want to listen to this podcast in an audio form, you can find that on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, where podcasts can be found. The link to all of those places can be found down in the description. And if you want to start a podcast, go to anchor.fm to start a podcast. They're the program that I use, and they do a fantastic job. So let's get into what I really wanted to talk about today, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a lot of problems going on. They have a lot of problems. Secondly, so let me pull this up here real quick. I just got to pull this up. So here we go. The Pittsburgh Steelers problems. So let's get into a bunch of other things. So I'm going to put my webcam over here. This is not really an ideal place for me to put a webcam, but we're just going to do it anyway. So this is where we're going right here. So this is the team stats entering this week in the NFL. And as you can see, you have the top leaders. You have the Chiefs. You have the Titans. This is in terms of total yards per game. This is not like points per game. This is total offensive yards. So you got the Chiefs at 1, and you got the Titans, Cardinals, Packers, Vikings, Bills, Chargers. And then you scroll all the way down here, and you find the 11-3 Steelers. Now keep in mind, there is only one team with a winning record that is below the Steelers, and that's the Miami Dolphins. That is the only team below the Pittsburgh Steelers that is below them in terms of total yardage. The Steelers rank 25th in the league. Look at the teams that rank above them. Patriots, losing record. Jaguars have the #1 overall pick as of right now. Eagles, losing record. Ravens, Panthers, losing record. Lions, Texans, losing record. Buccaneers, Saints, Cowboys, Falcons, 49ers, all three of them have losing records. The Raiders have a losing record. The Chargers have a losing record. The Vikings have a losing record. Look at those numbers. There are so many teams in the NFL right now that have losing records and have better offenses than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, 329 yards per game, that's not bad, right? I mean, it's not bad. But look at their other stats. So look at their passing game. Big Ben is averaging 240 passing yards a game. And that doesn't rank that high at all. It ranks about middle of the road. It ranks 18th. But pretty much middle of the road. And it's still behind a team like the Panthers, who once again have a losing record. The Raiders, who have a losing record. The Cowboys and 49ers, who have a losing record. The Lions and the Chargers and the Falcons and the Texans, who all have losing records. So there's nothing to be impressed by the Pittsburgh Steelers over this. There's really nothing to be impressed. By the way, I hope you all are loving the new microphone. I'm absolutely loving it. So you're going to hear a lot of... because I don't have a pop filter for this yet. I have one coming, but it's not in yet. That'll hopefully be here by the weekend. You'll get better quality video now until then. But anyway, just look at this. So, passing yards per game. The Chiefs are obviously up in front because they have a guy named Patrick Mahomes. So that's #1. But then look. You have the Chiefs at #1. Then you have the Bills, Texans, Falcons, Chargers. Literally 3 of the top 5 teams have losing records. 3 of the top 5 teams in terms of passing offense have losing records. Then let's look at the top 10 teams. You got 1, 2, 3. So that's top 5. 4, 5. Half of the top 10 teams in the NFL in terms of passing yardage offense are under 500. That's just simply unbelievable. Now, You might be asking yourself, well, a passing offense isn't that bad, but what's really the reason why Pittsburgh is doing so bad? Because if you look at points per game, Pittsburgh is doing pretty well. You know, they're about middle of the road, 26 points per game. That can win you a lot of football games, and it has. They've won 11 games because of it. But here is where they've ran into problems. Let's look at their schedule, and let's go back a few weeks. These are the last 2 games. By the way, I feel like they could lose both of these games very easily. They could definitely lose both these games very easily. They have a game against the Colts on Sunday, and then on January 3rd, they have a game against the Cleveland Browns. I think they could easily lose both of these games, and if Cleveland wins both those games, guess what? Cleveland wins the division at 12-4. Cleveland hasn't made a playoff appearance since 2000, and all of a sudden they're going to go 12-4, win their division, and make the playoffs. How funny would that be? How funny would that actually be? That is something that you don't want to see. That is something that you actually don't want to see. Alrighty, so here's what you have to look at here. So, all of these games that you see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 games, the Steelers didn't have a 100-yard rusher. The last time the Steelers had a 100-yard rusher was when they were 5-0, and they blew out the Cleveland Browns, who didn't have an identity then. Baker Mayfield was still trying to figure out what he was doing, as shown by the completion attempts here. Case Keenum even came in for a couple of throws. Ben Roethlisberger did not play bad at all, but James Conner was the star of the show. He had 101 yards. That is the last time the Steelers had a 100-yard rusher, and I can prove it with all of these games. Let's go to this game against the Titans. Leading rusher, James Conner, 82 yards. Next week against the Ravens. Leading rusher, 47 yards, James Conner. Steelers at Cowboys, 22 yards. And then again, this was against the atrocity of a defense that is the Dallas Cowboys, and they still had to come back down 10 to win that football game. All right, now let's go to this week against the Bengals. Now, they're facing a pretty easy defense, right? Nope. 36 rushing yards. Not even averaging 3 yards a carry. Good job, James Conner. Then you face the atrocity Jacksonville Jaguars, who currently have the number 1 overall pick. Were 1-9 at the time, and now are 1-13 as of recording this. They are 89 yards. That's the closest you've gotten. That's the closest you've gotten to getting over 100 yards, but you still have not gotten over that threshold. And then, this is where the slope occurred. This is when Juju started dancing on opponents' logos. And since then, the Steelers have not scored over 20 points in a single game, which is atrocious. You can't win football games when you don't score under 20 points. Your defense can keep you in those games, but you can't win games kicking field goals. You have to score touchdowns. So let's go to this game against the Ravens. And look at this. Benny Snell Jr., 60 yards. Not again, a 100-yard rusher. First loss of the year against the Redskins. Look at this. 15 yards. Nothing. You did zero zilch nada. Absolutely nothing. Big Ben did all the work, and that is why you guys lose. You can't have a 38-year-old quarterback be doing all the work for you. Then you got Steelers versus Bills. Look at that. 1.8 yards a carry on average for James Conner. 1.8. What else do I need to say? 1.8 yards per carry. I'm sorry that you hear the jingle bell. That's going to happen. And then you got last week against the Bengals, and look at that, 84 yards. They haven't had a 100-yard rusher, ladies and gentlemen, since October 18th. 2 full months without a 100-yard rusher in this league. And it proves itself because if you go to the rushing offense stats and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, Pittsburgh is 31st in the entire league in terms of total offensive yards. Total offensive yards when it comes to rushing, 89 yards a game. The only team that's worse is the Houston Texans. Look at all of these teams that are ahead of them. The New York Jets are averaging over 100 rushing yards a game, but the New York Jets just won their first game not too long ago. So that is how atrocious the Steelers have been. Now, if you're wondering, well, if their offense is this bad, how are they so good? How are they 11-3? Well, because when you go to defense, it's a different story. The defense is the reason why they've been in all these games. So when you go to yards per game, the only team that's better than the Steelers are the LA Rams. When you go to passing yards per game, the only team that's better than them are the LA Rams. When you go to points per game, the only team that's better than them is the Miami Dolphins. And this is the important stat, points per game. You can let up a lot of yards on defense, but if you're only allowing field goals, you're going to win games. That's what the Steelers have been doing all year. They've been only allowing field goals and late game touchdowns that don't really mean anything. So that is something that really helped them out. The only other teams that are averaging under 20 points a game are the Los Angeles Rams and the Miami Dolphins. Those are the only teams that are averaging under 20 points a game allowed on defense. So that is why the Steelers have been doing so good this year. And there's nothing that's gonna stop their defense. Their defense is gonna get worn out because they're gonna be on the field for so long. That's the only thing that's really gonna stop them. The only other thing that's gonna stop them also is injuries. But other than that, there's not much else the Steelers can do. They're gonna have to hope and pray that the Colts don't run all over them. Because look at this. If you actually go on defense, rushing defense is actually their worst point. And yet they're still top 10 in the league. They're 104 rushing yards a game. Now, if you go on offense, they're facing a team in the Cleveland Browns and the Indianapolis Colts. And if you go to their offensive stats, the Cleveland Browns are third in the entire league in terms of rushing yards per game. They're running the ball over 150 yards a game. The Colts are running it for over 114, so they'll have an easier time then. But good luck facing the Browns when you're facing Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That is a deadly, deadly duo. So that is my stance on the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a very fun stance, but there's not a lot to go on in terms of quality. So, the next segment I really wanted to talk about is basically, it's a long shot. So it's my top 10 teams in the NFL. When I do my top 10 teams, there's not really much that I kind of want to go off of here. But I kind of just like to think about three things. I like to think about three things. The first thing is coaching. Do you have a good coach that can win you football games late in December, early in January, which is the time we're in now? And situational ability. That's the second thing. Can you prove to me that you have what it takes to win out in big situational moments late in December, early in January to clinch a playoff spot? And number three, good defense. Now, when I do my top 10 list, you're going to notice that there's a team by the name of the Pittsburgh Steelers that's not on this list. For every reason that I explained. The Steelers have not been good at all. They've had a cakewalk all year. They're not going to be in this top 10 list. So, without further ado, these are my top 10 teams in the NFL. And I'm just going to stick with this little camera setup here. And I'm just going to go week by week with these stat sheet totals. So at number 10, I have the Indianapolis Colts, which is a team that the Pittsburgh Steelers are facing on Sunday for their Christmas game. The Indianapolis Colts are doing really well. Phillip Rivers, even though he's old as dirt, he is getting protected like no one's business. He has been sacked the least amount of times of any quarterback. They have an amazing offensive line. And when Phillip Rivers is comfortable, that is something you don't want to see. When Aaron Rodgers is comfortable, it's something you don't want to see. When Patrick Mahomes is comfortable, when any quarterback is comfortable, they can be a nightmare to deal with, especially with a guy who's as accurate as Phillip Rivers and has the experience like Phillip Rivers, the old veteran. The Colts also have a top 10 defense, especially their front seven being so ferocious in terms of their linebackers. They have a really good team. They have a really good rush defense. The Colts are a really good team in this league, and it wouldn't surprise me if they pulled away with the division, even though they do have to compete with the Tennessee Titans. But I am going to put them at number 10. At number 9, I'm going to put the Rams. Now, we all overhyped the Rams' loss to the New York Jets. It was funny for me personally because I live in St. Louis, and I was a Rams fan for the longest time. And whenever Stan Kroenke moved the Rams out of here, I developed a hatred not for the players on the Rams, but for the organization. I love all the players on the Rams. I love Jared Goff. I love Robert Woods. I love Cooper Kupp. I especially love Aaron Donald. That man is a beast. And I love Jalen Ramsey as well. But I developed a deep hatred for Stan Kroenke and the front office of the LA Rams because they wasted so much money just trying to go to a bigger market. They ended up going to the Super Bowl, and now they're going to host the Super Bowl over there just because it was over there. In fact, you could have spent $800 million to build a city on the riverfront in St. Louis that you actually would have sold out every single game. The people of St. Louis we have the best fans in sports. We have the best fans in sports. When the XFL came into play, the Battlehawks had twice as many average attendees than the nearest team. Twice as many. I'm not kidding. Twice as many. So that is something I love about St. Louis sports. But anyway, the Rams have the best defense in the NFL. Period. They lead everything in terms of yards per game, passing yards per game. They're doing good in rushing yards per game, and they're third in points per game, which is especially important. They're led by Aaron Donald. They have the best corner in the NFL in Jalen Ramsey. Aaron Donald has 12.5 sacks, which is second in the NFL. Their offense has some problems, and we've seen that, especially with their games against the Jets and other teams like Tampa Bay. They struggled against Tampa Bay, even though they won. The defense prevailed. But they've had a few turnover problems. Jared Goff has turned the ball over way too many times, which has been frustrating Sean McVay. That is why I have them at 9. If they get that turnover problem solved, they can be a real good threat in the NFC. And that is why I have them at 9. At number 8, I have Tampa Bay. Now, you could be asking yourself, well, why is Tampa Bay this low? Tampa Bay should be a lot higher. Well, here's the main reason. When Tampa Bay plays at their best, I know what they are. I saw what they did against a team like Green Bay. I saw what they did a team against Carolina. Now, you might be thinking Carolina's a bad team. Carolina plays everyone close. Carolina almost beat the Chiefs. They almost beat the Panthers. Or, they almost beat the Panthers. They almost beat the Packers, excuse me. And they almost beat the Saints. They almost beat a lot of good teams. That's why they're labeled as the best bad team in the NFL. Their record does not quantify how impressive of a team they are in terms of their caliber. But they put 46 points up on the Panthers and blew them up by 21. It was an unbelievable game. But then when the Buccaneers are not so hot, I also know what they look like, which is the games that I saw against New Orleans, or the Rams, or Chicago. Those types of games. Or having to come back down 17 against a losing team in Atlanta. Those types of games. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if they made a deep playoff run because of the guy under center named Tom Brady. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if they made a deep playoff run. But as of right now, I have them as my 8th best team in the NFL. At number 7, I have Cleveland. Cleveland has figured out what they are, and I personally think they're the best team in their division. You could definitely make an argument for Baltimore, but I think as of right now, the Cleveland Browns are the best team in their division. They are third in the NFL in terms of rushing yards per game. They're averaging 26 points per game. Baker Mayfield has found out what he is. They have a really, really good offense. They're top 12 in the league in terms of total offense. They're doing really well passing the football, running the football, distributing it. Baker Mayfield is comfortable. Myles Garrett has found out what he's doing, and the Browns defense has established himself. Kevin Stefanski is a real candidate for Coach of the Year. I was very surprised with how good the Browns have pulled off this year, and I think the Browns are a top 10 team in the NFL. I have them at 7. At number 6, I have the Tennessee Titans. The only other team to average over 160 yards per game in terms of rushing are the Baltimore Ravens. The other team is the Tennessee Titans. And Ryan Tannehill. Oh my God. We have to start appreciating Ryan Tannehill. Like, holy moly. 31 touchdowns to 5 picks. He's top 10 in passer rating, touchdown to interception ratio, and completion percentage. Ryan Tannehill is extremely valuable this year. Now, last year the Titans were still figuring out who they were and figuring out who they were with Ryan Tannehill. That's why I believe that they had a big problem. I swear. Well, my hat just fell off. I swear there's like a mouse up here, dude. I hear a lot of squeaking. I seriously hear a lot of squeaking. I think there's like a mouse up there rolling around on the rafters. Anyway, that was a bit of a distraction. We're going to keep the hat off because it's too distracting with the bells. But anyway, yeah. The Derrick Henry is leading the league in rushing yards. Derrick Henry is also leading the league in terms of touchdowns. He's leading rushing categories in pretty much everything. And when you have a physical specimen as big as Derrick Henry, that is a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs. So I have the Tennessee Titans as my 6th best team in the NFL. At number 5, I'm going to put Seattle. I was kind of downplaying Seattle the past few weeks because they hadn't solved a big problem. They've been way too dependent on Russell Wilson all year, and they haven't had a very good pass rush. But in the past few weeks, they have shown me that they don't need to be as dependent on Russell Wilson, and that they have fixed the pass rush. Those were the 2 main concerns that I had entering the postseason, and it looks like they fixed them, and they did a really good job of fixing them. Seattle is one of the best teams in terms of rushing offense, and the running backs are healthy. That was another big thing. The running backs weren't healthy, but now they are healthy. 125 yards per game. They're averaging 29 points a game with Russell Wilson under center. Russell Wilson, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. Definitely a Pro Bowl roster starter behind Aaron Rodgers. And he probably got snubbed of a Pro Bowl start, honestly, but Aaron Rodgers is balling. Seattle is going to probably win the NFC West, give or take a few wins. And they are going to have a deep run in the playoffs. I have them as my number 5 team in the NFL. At number 4, I have the New Orleans Saints. What other team in the NFL can you think of that could go 8-1 with 2 backup quarterbacks, and with that 8-1 record, win the first 8 games? The only other team you could probably think of are the Kansas City Chiefs. It's probably the only other team you can think of, and I'm not kidding when I say that. This team is arguably the most complete team in the NFC. They still have a bunch of problems to figure out. They still have to get used. They've been on and off with a Jameis Winston offense and then a Taysom Hill offense, and now they're getting back to the Drew Brees offense, and Drew Brees still isn't quite 100%. But I know when Drew Brees is 100%, they're a top 3 team in the NFL. But as of right now, he's not 100%, which is why I have him at number 4. And at number 3, I have the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers beat the Saints, but that was way, way early in the season. That was week 3. I feel like the outcome could be different, but if Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams play at an MVP-type level, like they have all season, it could be a very, very tough matchup, because Davante Adams can do well against anyone. Maybe besides Stephon Gilmore and Jalen Ramsey. There's a few corners in the NFL that can do a really good job at stopping Davante Adams. Jair Alexander has been leading the Packers defense. Even though the Packers defense hasn't been as good as it's wanted to be, it's still within the top 50% of defenses. It's probably not good enough to win a Super Bowl or make it to a Super Bowl. I'd say the Packers' ceiling is making it to a Super Bowl. I don't think they could win one because they'd probably have to face a team like the Bills or the Chiefs or the Ravens, the Browns. They have to face a lot of good physical teams. I don't think they would win, but their ceiling is probably making one, at least making the conference championship, because right now they hold the number 1 seed, and if they win at least one of their next few games, they will clinch that number 1 spot. But anyway, I have the Packers at number 3. At number 2, I have the Buffalo Bills. Now, if the Buffalo Bills make the Super Bowl, I'm in a bit of a predicament, because the football gods have told us that they don't want the Bills to ever win a Super Bowl. They lost 4 straight in the 90s for a reason. I mean, it's not because they were a bad team. They had amazing teams led by Jim Kelly. But they faced the loaded Cowboys teams, the loaded 49ers teams. They faced a Giants team that won off a game-winning field goal. It was atrocious. I hope we never get to see a team lose 4 straight Super Bowls again, unless it's New England Patriots or the LA Rams, for me personally. But there's nothing that I can really do about that. But any since then, the Bills have been doing really well offensively. Josh Allen is extremely comfortable, and the Bills' defense, led by Tre'Davious White, is phenomenal. It had a bit of a rough patch in the middle of the season, and the stats may show you some things that are not true, but when you look at the eyeball test, this team is locked and loaded, ready for the playoffs. They clinched the division for the first time in 5 years. For the first time in 25 years. They are going to have a fun time in the playoffs this year. I have them as my number 2 team in the NFL, but my number 1 team in the NFL is still the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs has had a few rough patches in the past few weeks in terms of their points per game. They haven't had a lot of points per game in terms of they've been scoring points. They've been scoring 30 points a game, but their passing offense, it's been all right. They still have the number 1 passing offense in the NFL, but they've been allowing teams to get really close. They faced the Panthers, they faced the Saints, they faced a lot of really good teams, and they've cut it very close games. Now, it's very crucial, the fact that you could pull away in those close games. The only thing that is really stopping the Kansas City Chiefs, as of right now, is injury and COVID. That's honestly it. That's honestly it. That's really the only thing that's stopping them. So those are my top 10 teams in the NFL as of right now. From 10 to 1, I have the Colts, the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Browns, the Titans, Seahawks, Saints, Packers, Bills, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Zachary Garrett says, "What is this?" This is my podcast. The form of the podcast that I promised I was going to be doing every time I uploaded an episode. But, it just didn't happen because I'm an idiot sometimes. But that's perfectly normal. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes sometimes. So, there was something that there was another thing I wanted to talk about. I'm kind of blanking on it now. But one thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of basketball was the heir to the throne. Right now, the throne is held by a man that some of you may know his name. A guy named LeBron James. Sound familiar to some people, maybe? But there is a guy from Slovenia who is entering his third season in the NBA and is now 21 years of age, who is going to be the heir to the throne. He's going to be the heir to the throne. And he showed it last night, or 2 nights ago, when he faced off against the Phoenix Suns in this first game of the year. First game of the year. So, this is what I want to tell you about here. So, this is his age 21 season. In his first game, he shot 11 of 26 from the field, which wasn't bad. He could definitely do better. Shot 42%. Didn't take any threes. Actually, he took 6 threes, missed them all, so he's got to work on that. But, that's just how he is. He's not really a best pure shooter. He's more of a driving force. But he still put 30 points in 36 minutes. So, and he put up 8 rebounds, 5 assists. This is the heir to the throne. In 2018, he played his rookie season. He plays for the Dallas Mavericks. He won Rookie of the Year. He averaged 21 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. Let me pull up these stats for you real quick, because I know some of y'all are going to be very interested as to what I have to say about this kid, Luka Doncic. It's fantastic what this kid has been able to do. Absolutely fantastic. So, I don't know if you can read these, but these are his stats throughout the past few weeks. There's only been one game this year, but he plays tonight against the LA Lakers in a Christmas Day special. I don't expect him to win that game because he's really only by himself against a team that has, LeBron James and Anthony frickin' Davis, the top 2 players in the entire league. But he faced a really good young Suns team, and this is what he pulled up. He put up 32 points per game. And I know that's, this is his best season ever. Well, he's only played 1 game, so calm down. He's playing 72. Well, this was a full season, this one right here. But this was the COVID season, and then this one is going to be another 72-game season. They played 72 games in this season, but he also rested because of injury and because he wanted to stay healthy for the playoffs, which is completely understandable. But yeah, this is what they're going to be doing. 32 points per game in his first game. So why do I say he's the heir to the throne? Well, here's why. So there was a debate going on last year between 2 players. And this debate was about which of these 2 players is the best right now in the NBA. And those 2 players are LeBron James of the LA Lakers and Kawhi Leonard for the LA Clippers. Kawhi Leonard had just come off a season where he had an impressive playoff run, one of the best playoff runs we've ever seen, won an NBA Finals MVP, and beat the Golden State Warriors, basically ending their dynasty that they had built up. The Warriors previously had won 3 championships, were looking to three-peat. They had won 3 championships in the past 4 seasons. The only one they lost was a comeback to LeBron James and the Cavaliers. But this year they weren't at full speed. They weren't at full strength. KD was out. Klay Thompson was out in one of the games. They weren't at full speed. They weren't fully healthy. They weren't in the right mindset. But Kawhi Leonard absolutely shut them down. Props to him. But we knew if KD was on the floor, the Warriors would have won and they would have three-peated. That's just how it would have been. Anyway, so last year, after he wins a championship, Kawhi Leonard moves to the LA Clippers. And he doesn't just go there, he also recruits. He recruits another top 15 player in the NBA named Paul George. Paul George is a guy who can defend, who can score, who can shoot, who can pretty much do anything. He's a 6'10 power forward, and he's amazing. He's amazing. He's not really a number one player on a team. He can be a number one player on a team, but on this team, he's the number two player, which just shows you how good he is, and especially how good Kawhi Leonard is. Kawhi Leonard is a top 5 player in the NBA. In my opinion, at top 3. But then there was a little thing that happened called the coronavirus. The NBA shut down in March, and then it came up again in August. And they had a big bubble set up down in Florida, and the Clippers ended up with the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. The Clippers faced Luka Doncic's Mavericks team, who were the number 7 seed. This was the first time that the 20-year-old Luka Doncic had ever played in an NBA game. The first time he had ever played in an NBA game. So here's how he did. Let's go to his playoff stats. They are right here. Let me scroll up a bit. Right here. There we go. So, the series lasted 6 games. The Clippers won in 6 games, but it lasted 6. Now, before I read you these stats, or you can read them right now, I just want you to know that entering this series, the Clippers were title favorites. They were the favorites to win it all, hoist the Lombardi Trophy, go to Disney World when COVID ended, and celebrate back home in their city. But after they won this series, that just didn't come to plan, and LeBron and the Lakers actually ended up hosting the championship, with LeBron winning his 4th Finals MVP, winning another championship to cement his legacy in the game of basketball. So this is what I wanted to talk about here. Look at this number. 31 points per game. The Clippers were loaded. They had Kawhi Leonard, one of the best defensive players in the game. Paul George, one of the best defensive players in the game. Montrezl Harrell, one of the best defensive players in the game. Actually won 6th Man of the Year that year. Lou Williams, an amazing defensive talent. Patrick Beverley, an amazing defensive talent. That was the best defensive team in the NFL, NBA. Behind, arguably, the Bucks and the Lakers. It was a top 2 or 3 defensive team in the NBA. And this man, at the age of 20, keep in mind, 20 years old, in his first ever playoff series, 31 points per game, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. You can round those numbers up. Like, what else and he shot 50% from the field on average. 50%. What else do I need to say? And 36% from 3. The dude balled off. Balled off. Absolutely balled off. And one thing that I love about Luka is the fact that he's not very ball-centric. He's a team player. As of show, his 9 assists in the playoffs. And in past years, he put up 6 assists his first year, and he had 9 assists in his second year. Excuse me. But yeah. So, his career high last year was 42. That was his career high. He's put up 40 points a game multiple times. He put up 35 in his first season. So look at this. Look at this game he had. He played 43 minutes. He put up 42 points, 20 rebounds, 19 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks. Shot over 50% from the field, or shot about 50%. And shot 50% from 3! Look at that! The man's insane. The man's insane. As of right now, experts predict, and I'm not kidding when I say this, Bleach Report and ESPN before the start of this year predicted their top 10 players in the entire NBA. Luka Doncic was number 3. The only 2 people above him were Anthony Davis, who just won a championship with the LA Lakers, and LeBron James, who also just won a championship with the LA Lakers. People that were below him were Giannis Antetokounmpo, a guy who has won back-to-back MVPs. Kawhi Leonard, the quote-unquote cyborg, the defensive mastermind. Rudy Gobert, Damian Lillard, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. All of those extremely talented players who have so much experience in this league. And that guy has just gotten through 2 seasons and 6 playoff games. And he's already being considered the 3rd greatest player in the entire NBA. That is how good he is. That is why he's the heir to the throne. Keep in mind, LeBron is entering year 18. He is going to be 36 in 5 days. So LeBron is going to be very tiring. And a lot of people want to see him out of the NBA. I preferably don't want to see him out of the NBA because it gives them ratings. Once LeBron gets out of the NBA, the ratings, I guarantee you, will plummet. There's a lot of people right now that say LeBron is the GOAT, even though that is not true. Michael Jordan is and always will be the GOAT unless Michael Jordan Jr. reincarnated comes out of the grave. But there is no possible way that anyone can overtake LeBron James besides Luka Doncic. And I think that Luka Doncic will win MVP this year. And if that actually happens, by the way, he's also favored to win MVP. Did I forget to mention that? He's favored to win MVP. So if that happens, Luka Doncic, in my heart, and throughout the hearts of hopefully every basketball fan out there, will be the best basketball player on the planet. And LeBron, I will have to say, will be number 2. So that is what I'm talking about when it comes to heir of the throne. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the world of sports. There's a lot of stuff. You got COVID protocols in all the sports, and you got hockey who's ready to start up again. You got baseball who's still wondering what they're going to do because the vaccine's starting to roll out. They're trying to find out if they can have fans or if they're going to let their teams travel, if they're going to set up another bubble just to be safe because baseball plays every single day. They travel multiple times every single week. There's a lot of transmission going through baseball, and baseball's at most risk when it comes to COVID. So they're still having a lot of stuff to figure out, although they do have a lot of time. Their season doesn't start until late February, early March, so there's a lot of time to figure that stuff out. However, the NBA has already figured out what they're doing. They're not allowing fans for the entirety of the regular season for the most part. And teams cannot break COVID protocol, which is not that hard to understand. Unless you're a guy by the name of James Harden. Let's pull up the headlines here. James freaking Harden. The selfish, crybaby, just scumbag that is James Harden. I have developed a pure hatred for James Harden. James Harden is a great player, talented. I'm not going to dispute that, but as a person, I hate him. He is garbage. And because of the fact that I hate him as a person, I also hate him as a player. I don't want to ever see him succeed. The fact that he won an MVP doesn't surprise me when you score 36 points a game and you have more free throws than you do field goals. There's no, like, it's so stupid. So, let's read this headline that came out earlier last week from ESPN. Because this headline is a straight up doozy. It is a straight up doozy. All right, so let's go to this. Houston Rockets James Harden fined $50,000, unavailable due to protocol violation. Do you want to know what the protocol violation was? Okay, so keep in mind, James Harden makes over $30 million a year, so this fine is pretty much a slap on the wrist. It's nothing. He can pretty much just take money out of his pocket and say, here you go, there's the $50K, and then just walk away. It's not much at all. So, the article reads, this is from Tim McMahon, the ESPN staff writer. Houston Rockets star James Harden has been fined $50,000 by the NBA and was ruled unavailable for Wednesday's game due to a violation of the league's COVID-19 protocols after the league reviewed video of him socializing maskless at a club earlier this week. Harden will not be suspended. This part right here is the part that I am absolutely infuriated with. It's day one. It's day one of the regular season. You are the NBA's quote-unquote golden boy. You are the star. You are the leader of your team. You are considered a top 10 player in the entire world. And in day one, just because you want to get traded and you hate your organization, you hate your front office, you hate your teammates, you hate everything. You hate everything. You go out to a strip club with your buddies, not wearing a mask, breaking protocol, probably gave your teammates COVID, did a bunch of other stuff, and you just don't care. You just simply don't care. And Adam Silver in the NBA should have given him a heftier fine, because this could set an example that it's okay to do this. You're not going to get that big of a fine. But because it's James Harden, the NBA is going to be like, oh, we can't fine him too much. He's our golden boy. He's been trying to get traded for so long. He's also been trying to get away from Russell Westbrook for so long. And by the way, the trade talks for him are just unbelievable. All right, we'll get into that in just a few moments. But I wanted to talk about this on this part of the article. In announcing that Wednesday night's game against the Oklahoma City Thunder was being postponed, the NBA say Harden was, quote, unavailable due to a violation of the health and safety protocols. The Rockets didn't have the league required... Listen to this segment, by the way. Listen to this highlighted segment right here. The Rockets did not have the league required 8 available players needed to proceed with the game. They had less than 8 people eligible to play, which means they should have forfeited, by rule, they should have had to forfeit the game and give the Thunder the win. By rule, that's what should have happened. And I think they postponed. It's the weird world we live in now with COVID, but it's so stupid. The Rockets should not have had. They should have had to forfeit the game. They should have even had to forfeit the game. The video of Harden partying maskless, which was published by Black Sports Online and has been circulating on social media, is purportedly from a Houston club's Christmas party held this week. The NBA's COVID-19 protocols prohibit players from going to bars, lounges, or clubs, and from participating in social gatherings of more than 15 people. The league said Harden violated those rules when he attended a, quote, private indoor party on Monday. And look at this. Look at this selfish scumbag. Look at this right here. Look at this fucking paragraph. I'm so sorry for the language, but I'm so mad at this dude. I'm so mad. Harden has told NBA investigators he believed he was in compliance with the health and safety protocols. A source close to the situation told Shelburne. Harden and multiple witnesses at the event had told the league that he attended a seated dinner for a friend who had recently been promoted at work. However, you should have been wearing a mask. You went to a club, and the protocols state you can't go to clubs. So why did you go to club in the first place? Oh, mainly because you just hated in Houston, and you wanted to go to a club one last time before you got traded to someplace that's never going to win you a title. All of the places that have offered him a contract, first off, they're offering way too much. I saw a trade that the Sixers were offering. Keep in mind, the Sixers would only be receiving James Harden. That's the only thing they'd be receiving. They would be giving up Ben Simmons, their number 2 player. Arguably, if he had a jump shot. By the way, this is how good Ben Simmons is. If he had a jump shot, he'd be a top 5 player in the league. You could honestly make an argument that if he had a jump shot, he would be a top 5 player in the league. He can pass. He can block. He can rebound. He can steal. He just can't shoot. That's his only problem. If he could shoot, you could make a solid argument he'd be top 10 in the NBA. Or top 5, excuse me. But I'd probably put him top 10. If he could shoot, that is. He's still an amazing player. So they wanted Ben Simmons, 3 first-round picks, and 2 fifth-round picks. 5 draft picks. For one player. 5 draft picks for one player, along with arguably a top 15 player in all of the NBA. So, yeah. No. Not at all. Not at all. There is no way that you should ever accept that trade. And if you're the Philadelphia 76ers, you just say, get away from me. You just say, go home, go away. I'm not dealing with this anymore. That's just what you do. So, here is another quote from the article. This is about James Harden talking about his mask. Quote, according to the source, Harden said he entered through a separate entrance and sat in a separate area of the venue with a security detail and was wearing a mask. He took a photo with his friend and gave her a gift. Harden, the source said he left after approximately 30 minutes and did not continue on with the group, which went to other locations later in the night. So, even if this is true, even if you're only there for 30 minutes, do you know what's still not great? The fact that you still violated protocol, even if you weren't near anyone in the club, even if you were wearing a mask. The protocol specifically states that it prohibits players from going into bars, lounges, clubs, which is where you were at, James. You were in a club, and participating in social gatherings more than 15 people. That is what happened. Harden issued a statement on Instagram on Wednesday saying, every day it's something different, and that the event was not at a strip club, which it was. It was at a club. Even if it wasn't a strip club, it was a club, and it says it's not a club. So this is what James Harden said in his Instagram post, and just listen to this. Quote, one thing after another. I went to show love to my homegirl at her event, not a strip club, because she is becoming a boss and putting her people in position of success, and now it's a problem. Every day it's something different. No matter how many times people try to drag my name under, you can't. The real always end on top. Well, guess what? You're not on top. You've never been on top. The only time you were on top was when you won MVP, but then again, you still weren't the best player in the league. LeBron and KD were the best players in the league. You were not anywhere on their level. You have more career free throws than you do field goals. You average 10 to 15 free throws a game, and you average 8 field goals a game. That is not a joke. You can look up his stats. He averages more free throws a game, or just as many free throws a game, as he does field goals. And he has more career free throws made per game than he does field goals. Why do you think he scores 30 points every game? Oh, it's because he's such a good shooter. No, because he gets to the line. And when you can shoot free throws, that's not the hardest skill in the NBA to learn. It's not. I bet you I could make 70 or 80 out of 100 free throws, and I haven't shot a basketball, and I'm not even kidding you, 4 months. I guarantee it. I absolutely guarantee it. So, here is another thing. This is according to the health and safety protocols. According to the health and safety protocols, failure or refusal to comply could subject a player to disciplinary action by the NBA or his team, including a warning, fine, or suspension, as well as being required to participate in an education or a training session. Repeat offenders may be subject to enhanced discipline. So, it's day one of over 150, and James Harden has already violated this once. And if he does it again, of course, he's going to complain, he's going to be selfish, he's going to be a crybaby, when yet there's no one else to blame but him. If you want to go meet up with your homegirl because she's a boss, go to her house. Do that. Don't go to a club. Don't go to a place that is specifically banned by the COVID protocols. And it doesn't matter if it wasn't a strip club. It doesn't matter if you were wearing a mask. It doesn't matter if there weren't 15 people or more there. All that matters is that you went out to a place you weren't supposed to go. That's labeled in the COVID protocols right here. COVID-19 protocols prohibit players from going to bars, lounges, or clubs, and from participating in social gatherings of more than 15 people. That is what you did. And no matter what you say, you can't deny it. For a missed game due to COVID-19 violation, players will lose 1/72 of their salary. So that means that Harden will lose a big slap on the wrist, $572,000. The Rockets and Harden are awaiting word from the NBA's medical staff to determine how long of a quarantine will be required before he is cleared to return for the team. So guess what? You've tested negative for 3 days. So the article also says that he tested negative 3 days in a row after he had tested positive. But that still means he could appear in his system later. That doesn't mean he's in the clear. He's still going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks because he's just an idiot. He's an absolute idiot. You want the season to go on. You get paid $30 million a year to play the game that you love. And we get to sit home and watch it. And we get to cheer you on. But something like this is going to ruin your reputation. It's going to absolutely ruin your reputation. The fact that you're crying about it on day one is something that is absolutely going to tarnish your character. And it's something that you don't want on your resume. You don't want it at all. So the fact that you're doing this, it blows me away. Absolutely blows me away. So it's going to be a short episode because I want to. It's Christmas. It's a Christmas special, so I just want to get everything going and underway. How are you all doing, by the way? Merry Christmas to any of you who are listening right now, or to any of you who are watching this as a video when it is out. Merry Christmas to all of you. This is being recorded on December 25th. If you're wondering what I use to make my audio podcasts, I use Anchor. Go to anchor.fm. It's very easy. It's free, completely free. You can have licensed music, listener support, clips. You can get paid. There's a bunch of cool tools you can use on Anchor. This video isn't sponsored by Anchor, but the podcast itself is. So, yeah, go to anchor.fm to get started. It's a very fun, it's a very easy learning system, I should say. Very, very easy learning system in terms of that. So, now, let's go to the NFL for the last week of the season. Because I want to do a few things. So, I don't like betting on games. That's one thing. I really don't like betting on games. However, if I did bet on games, this is a segment that I like to do every now and then. And it's just... Hold on, I gotta... So, what are we doing? ESPN bets. I can't. NFL week 16. I don't know why everything is going on. Alright. So, this game is already going on. It's the Vikings-Saints game that's on Christmas Day. So I'm not going to be betting that game, but I will go to the Sunday games because there's a lot of stuff that could happen on a Sunday game. I'm just going to pick ones I feel best about because I can't bet on every single game. There's just so many. Excuse me. There's so much stuff that you just don't know what could happen in a game. So that is something that I don't love betting on when it comes to those types of things. So anyway, let's just get right into it. So I think we'll start out with this one. Niners at Cardinals. The line is the Cardinals are -3.5. And I think the Cardinals will cover the spread. If I had to predict the Cardinals win this game, and if you win this game with a spread that low, you're probably going to cover the spread as well. Because usually you don't win by 1 or 2. It's rare to win by 1 or 2, but it can happen, but it's still rare. The Cardinals are fighting for a final playoff spot. They have it right now, but if they lose, they could be out of it. So they're fighting to keep it, and they need to win every game out from here on out. They need to win every game, so they are fighting for a playoff spot. I believe right now they're 8-6. So they got to fight. They're fighting for their lives from the Bears and the Vikings, but there's a lot of stuff on the line. So I believe the Cardinals are going to be fighting for something in this win against the 49ers. They're going to win that game. Dolphins -2.5 against the Raiders. I'll bet the Dolphins -2.5. I'll bet the Dolphins -2.5. Why not? The Dolphins have the number 1 defense in the NFL when it comes to points per game allowed. Xavier Howard leads the NFL in total interceptions. I'm not just reading what they have on here, by the way. This is just tips to help you bet on it. I'm going off of my basic knowledge when it comes to this stuff. But yeah, Xavier Howard leads the NFL in interceptions. He has 9 interceptions. He's almost at 10 interceptions this year, which is absolutely insane. He's a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. But This man is insane. The Dolphins' defense is insane, and their offense is also pretty good as well. The offense is averaging about 25 points a game with Tua. So a 2.5-point spread against the struggling Raiders will not be doing much. The Raiders season is over. They are eliminated from the playoffs, but they still have a lot of work to do. I love the Raiders and the direction that they're going, but the Dolphins are going to win and cover. What are some underdogs that I feel like could be good to bet on? The Colts. Oh, how the tables have turned for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh has, look at this. Pittsburgh has failed to cover 4 straight games. Indianapolis has covered 4 straight road games, and the spread is only 2.5. So even if Pittsburgh wins this game, I guarantee it's going to be a close game. I guarantee it's going to be a close game. First off, I don't even think Pittsburgh's going to win this game. I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to win this football game, and that the Pittsburgh will go down to 11-4, and the division will be decided based off their Week 17 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. That's personally what I think is going to happen here. The Colts are going to win this football game and cover the 2.5-point spread. That is what's going to happen. So that's an underdog I like to bet on. Let's look at some of the other games. Carolina. I like Carolina. Washington has a pretty decent defense, led by Ron Rivera. They've shown what their defense has been able to do in the past few weeks, but there is still a team in the NFC East in the name of the Dallas Cowboys. Can you believe it or not? The Dallas Cowboys are in contention still. Can you actually believe that? They're still in contention. The Washington football team is fighting for a spot in the playoffs. They're fighting for that number 4 seed, because if you miss the playoffs, if you finish second in the division, you miss the playoffs. You have to win your division, especially when you're in the NFC East, that is. When you're in the NFC East, you have to win your division to make the playoffs. The Washington football team need to win this game. This is a must-win for them, but it's a -2-point spread, and Carolina plays everyone well. They played Green Bay well last week. They played Kansas City well. They played New Orleans well. They played Tampa Bay well. They have what it takes to beat this Washington football team. So I would actually bet the underdog Panthers to win. If you're bet the underdog Panthers on a 2-point spread, you're pretty much saying that the underdog is going to win, because it'd be rare for it to be a 1-point game and have the other team win. I mean, it can happen, but it's rare. But I think that the Panthers win this game and cover the 2-point spread. What else can happen here? Ooh. This is the division right here. This is the division. Because if the Rams win this game, the Rams have a sweep over the Seahawks. So the Rams will hold both of the games. So this is a must-win game for the Rams. If the Seahawks win this game, I'm pretty sure they clinch the division, because the Rams can finish 10-6 and the Seahawks will finish. Yeah. So if the Seahawks win, the division is theirs. If the Rams win, it comes down to who does better in Week 16. The Rams would actually overtake the Seahawks because they beat them previously in the year, and it would be a sweep for the season series. And you have a bet right here. Los Angeles covered all 3 meetings since the start of last season. Each of the last Seattle games has gone under the total. None of the last 11 Los Angeles games have gone under the total. So if you had to bet, you can bet on the Rams. I feel like the Rams are going to want to bounce back after their frustrating loss against the Jets. And they played Seattle multiple times. They know what's going to happen. Jalen Ramsey can shut down DK Metcalf. Aaron Donald is a force to be reckoned with. Now, it's going to be very interesting because Seattle has established a pass rush. And that's going to make Jared Goff a little uncomfortable. And we know how Jared Goff is when he is uncomfortable. He doesn't like to be uncomfortable. Of course, no quarterback likes to be uncomfortable, but Jared Goff in particular does not play well when he's uncomfortable. So I still like the Rams to win, but that is going to be a fun game to watch. That is the season on the line. I think both those teams make the playoffs regardless, but that is season on the line for the LA Rams. That is a must-win for them. And if Seattle wins, the division is there. So they're going to be both fighting for every single yard. I like the Rams, though, to win that game and cover the -2-point spread. So that's now 3 underdogs that I would bet on as of now. Oh, how about that? Eagles, Cowboys. At the start of the year, I thought that this was going to be the game that would decide the division. I thought that the Cowboys would be around, looking at their talent, I thought the Cowboys would be around 10-6, and the Eagles would be at around 9-7. But Carson Wentz was just atrocious, and Dallas their defense was also atrocious. And it's a 1.5 point spread. So this bet just says that you either think the Cowboys or the Eagles are going to win. You don't think that it's going to be one team wins, but the other covers the spread. It's either this team or that team wins. And Dallas is on a roll. If I had to bet, I bet the underdog Dallas. It's only a 1.5 point spread, which I think Dallas wins this game. Dallas has figured out their offense. They're slowly figuring out their defense. The one thing I'm concerned about is trying to stop Jalen Hurts. Because they played, Philadelphia and Dallas played when Carson Wentz was the starter. They haven't played when Jalen Hurts was the starter. So that's really the only thing I'm concerned about right now. But I like Dallas in this game. That's another underdog I'm taking. That's now 4 underdogs I'm taking. The Monday night games, you have Buffalo at New England. And then the other 2 games I'm looking at are Titans at Green Bay. That's a tough one. That's a Titans at Green Bay. You see, the problem with Green Bay is not really that much of a physical team. They don't really like to get too physical. The Titans are a physical team. It wouldn't surprise me if the Titans win that game, because the Titans have the number 2 rushing attack in the NFL, led by Derrick Henry, and the Packers do not have a really good rush defense. They struggle against the run. Especially with how good Ryan Tannehill's been playing, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Tennessee actually whoops Green Bay this game. It wouldn't surprise me. If I had to bet, I'd bet the underdog Titans. I don't know why they're an underdog. The Packers are 11-3, but the Titans are 10-4. It's a really, really good game. It's going to be a good Sunday night game. I think the Packers could win, but it could go either way. So I'm kind of torn on. I'm not going to bet on that. That game could go either way. If I had to bet, I'd probably pick the Titans, but that game could honestly go either way. I want to do one more bet here. So last week, when the Rams were favored over the Jets, I bet the Rams. And obviously that was a huge mistake because of the events that transpired on that Sunday. But I've learned from that. I've learned not to bet on big point spreads. The point spread then was 17, and they didn't cover. The point spread for this game is about 10. And I don't know. I think my odds would be safe with the Cleveland Browns. I think the Cleveland Browns can cover a 10-point spread. The Browns have been doing really well. They have a passing game. They have a rushing game. They have a great defense. I think I take the Browns in that scenario. So, yeah. That is it for today's show. It's a little bit of a Christmas special. But I believe everyone deserves a little bit of forgiveness, for what's been happening over the past few months or so. But, yeah. That is going to be it for today's episode of the Sideline Reporter. It's not an audio version. It's just this video live stream that you're watching right now. I hope you like the new equipment, by the way. I will get a pop filter so that it will not be as crappy audio. And I also have an audio board coming, which should be here on Monday, so that the audio quality will sound a lot better. And because this microphone is brand new, I haven't used it yet, but it's going to be a lot better than this. So yeah, I love this new stand. It's awesome. And it's professional now. It's legit. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Link to all of the podcast links will be down in the description. Or if you go to the homepage of the channel, you can find the Spotify page up there. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And I will talk to you all on Monday for another episode of the Sideline Reporter. Streaming live on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, Anchor. Pretty much anywhere where podcasts can be found.